Nation. Welcome into another episode of the Renegade Rundown. I've got my co-host with me here, Deshawn, aka Deshawn Adams 18. You can find him on X. Man, uh, I know some folks, the folks that are here every single show, may be a little tired of conference realignment, a little tired of the Big 12 talk and everything that comes along with it here as of late. But we did have some breaking news today. If not breaking news, a breaking story. And it caught the attention of all of America. When I say all of America, I mean everybody. Everybody had an opinion. Everybody weighed in. I'm sure the majority of our fan base out there probably had two or three people sending them a message on Facebook or Twitter messaging or texting it to you or whatever the case may be, saying, look, see, look, Florida State, Big Ten doesn't want you. Florida State, SEC doesn't want you. All that shit y'all are talking, it's no good. SEC staying at 16 and the Big Ten's done. They're not adding no more people. That was the word on the street. All thanks to my guy, Brett McMurphy, guy that's been in the game forever, used to be at ESPN for a long time. Now he's at Action Sports, I believe it's called. I'm not sure if he owns the thing or what, but he put out an article in which, look, I'm gonna be honest, he wasn't crazy. Like, he didn't say anything crazy out there, preposterous, but he also didn't say anything that anybody that follows this show didn't already know, with the context and everything to that degree. And we're going to explain that. But, first starting off, I want to kind of go through and explain the exact situation and give folks the context of why the stuff and the things that were said in the article are nothing to worry about. It doesn't change anything about the thoughts of Florida State to the Big Ten come 2026 or possibly 2025. But I don't want to just ramble on for 30 minutes without giving my guy Deshawn a chance to speak. What was your initial thoughts on it, man? How are you feeling about all the rumors flying around?
Just that, man. It's just more rumors, man, more fodder. Clickbait, as we've discussed offline, man. I just look at it as we all know that we're in a wait and see holding pattern. Nothing could move until the legalities are taken care of. So all of these talking heads, pundits, quote unquote experts, journalists, they're going to say what they're inspired or those behind the scenes are saying. Some sources may be true, some are not true. The only thing that I can understand is we just heard last week what the Big 12 is in talks. How could the Big 12 be in talks with FSU and Clemson if we're contractually obligated still to the ACC? We have not declared anything. We have not said anything. We're going through legalities. So there's no reason to lose your mind over what even a credible journalist would say. It's just opinionated. And no administrative person representing the Big Ten or the SEC really can say, yeah, we want them, we're going to take them. So, there's no reason to really overreact if you're just the average Joe Smo fan, like myself.
Very well said. And I just wanted the people to know, I'm not going to go on a crazy rant. I'm not going to compare. I won't say a nasty word. We aren't going to compare sources, talk about who has access to people who are more in the know, or anything like that. But what I am going to do is give you context, let you know exactly where we're at, where FSU stands, where Clemson stands with what Deshawn spoke to, the actual litigation that's going on and the possible plan and the things that would happen to happen for FSU to even have an opportunity to earn an invite, for FSU to be even in a position to where when you go talk to the president of the Big Ten or the president of the SEC, where they could even freely comment without fear of, collusion or anything like that. Before they even get to that position, there's a long way to go. Jeff Hill comes through with the $10 super chat. Appreciate you, Jeff.
Thanks,
Jeff is like an OG to the show. He's been here since day one, as soon as I got monetized. And before that, he says, everyone has sources, but sometimes sources can be wrong. I mean, you can't convince me that if Florida State is available, that the Big Ten and the SEC don't want FSU. BS. Yeah, very well said. And like I was saying earlier, it's not even that McMurphy has to be wrong about this minute, but
Mhm.
who has said that Florida State was going to be in the Big Ten or the SEC in 2024? Who has said for sure there's even going to be an announcement in this calendar year of Florida State's exit for the ACC, which is just the very first thing of several that I'm about to lay out for you that would have to happen for that offer to be able to go out publicly. For Tony Petitti to be able to publicly go out and talking about expansion. And I'll get into it more later. But what was the last thing we heard? I don't think Petitti was even in office yet. I think it was Kevin Warren or somebody when all that stuff first started coming. But he was like, nope, no more expansion. Oregon, Washington, absolutely not. A matter of days later, bam, they're in the Big Ten. Right after a report just like this, and I believe it was Bud Elliott that quote tweeted it with the quotes from those articles right before that happened last year. And so people want to say, but look at all the rumors that happened before. Okay, well, if you're comparing this to what's happened and the reporting that these people have done to what's happened in the past, you put us in Oregon and Washington's position. Well,
Mhm.
then that means FSU to the Big Ten, doesn't it? If they're saying that they can't get in,
Yeah.
that's just my 2 cents on it. But as far as you know, where Florida State is in litigation, why they sued, the whole thing. First of all, Florida State sued over the exit fees. They
Mhm.
have not put in their withdrawal from the ACC. They want to argue the grant of rights, the exorbitant $140 million exit fee, and then on top of that, having to relinquish their rights to the ACC through 2036 and give up the money from all their home games and things of that nature. That was like the biggest part of their litigation. That's what they're going after the ACC suing them for, so that they can safely withdraw their name. And they are in the middle of that right now. Something we hoped that could be a fast process has got hung up. It has went back and forth, dismissed, resubmitted, approved, and now we're in the sit and wait game.
Mhm.
The same thing with the opposite. North Carolina preemptively sued us up there. They got a ruling their way. Florida State took it to the appeals court, and the
Mhm.
same thing with Clemson and vice versa. Clemson suit, their suit was more focused on, and one of the biggest things that come out of there is them getting the definition of what a home game is. What exactly is it? What are these rights that you're claiming to have?
Mhm.
And we're finding out as it appears, and this is what's came out from judges' mouths. This is where if you talk to any lawyer, this is where we're at. It came out of the ACC lawyers' mouths. Should FSU or Clemson leave the conference, what happens? The rights go back to the Atlantic Coast Conference. And currently, FSU and the ACC, Clemson and ACCC, the ACCCC. I had a couple of C's there, but they're in court battling out to find out. Okay, well, do those rights go to the ACC or do they go back to FSU and Clemson? That's
Mhm.
the big question of the court case. We're trying to find out before these two people um, move forward. So for people to act like, oh, well, ESPN, SEC, they're going to block all these things because why would they do this? Why would they? Well, if FSU and Clemson leave the ACC, why in the world would they cut a check for the same price when they're not getting the money from those games?
Mhm.
Now, if you were to say, okay, FSU, Clemson go to the Big Ten, and then the SEC is going to get paid from the Big Ten, that cut of the pie. Look, guys, that is just not off the table. There is no situation um, that's been kind of brought forth by that. Sorry, I know
Mhm.
I'm stumbling on my words. I know you're dying to talk. Go ahead, Sean.
No, I was just saying it's likened to diluting a liquid in this situation. Um the FSU's value is there, and it's obviously there's some sort of campaign to dilute the value that the program has. Because in the article, when you read it, you could see that there's not a lot of mention of Clemson there, if any. So it seems like it is a bit of a smear campaign, but I would say like a clean, because Brett McMurphy is a credible journalist in that situation. But getting into the article, as you see, there just seems to be continuously be uh, target here, target there. We're in everyone's on everyone's mouth, basically, you know, on the topic, and it's always a gray area. I mean, there is no gray area. It's either you hate us or you like us, but you're gonna talk about us. and it's continual. But my opinion is this, and I'll leave it at this. As I've already stated, we know the legal situation, we know where we're at. We're going to play this season, and I'm going to speak now. I'll say it. 2026, we'll be officially out of that conference. We'll probably make a declaration in 2025, if not before the deadline this year. And then that's it. And then you'll see everyone be proven wrong about our value. You know, we've always operated in a place of low value and operated above. High production, low maintenance. But it's time for us to get our upcomings. You know, it's time for us to get what we deserve. We're no longer a new kid on the block. We are a blue blood. If you look at the last 45 to 50 years, we have been relevant. We've set all the trends in the game. Other programs have followed. I'm not going to go on and run and on a rant about it. I'll say that for another time. But this is a part that I always get a little upset about, because it kind of falls and spills into our fan base, where we lose sense of pride of what our program, our university, and in particularly our football program's value is to college football. We say it, but we truly don't understand all the trends that we set, that other programs who existed before us have followed. So just take a little pride in who we are as Knowles, in our programs, in the university, and all of that, and just wait it out. Don't lose your mind every time something hits the timeline, social media, or the news, because we all know it's just a trigger, because they know we are a very passionate and vocal fan base. And if they say something that'll upset us, they're going to get what they want, the engagement.
Facts. And look, guys, this isn't like a hate on, Brett McMurphy or
No.
anything like that. It's just the fact of what happens is when somebody like him reports nationally, and he's kind of reporting on the temperature of what's going on now and what different presidents and things are going to say, the way other people then pick up and write stories all based on his quote, like we saw from Jason Shear the other day. Today we saw it with Brett McMurphy. Well, when you read Brett McMurphy's article that we're about to go through, he is very careful protecting himself and putting all these ifs and maybes, and this happens and those things happen, to protect himself. And that's not how it gets reported on. That's not what you see on the timeline, what you see on Facebook, what you see on smaller different outlets. It's, Florida State's out of it. They got no chance at Big Ten or the SEC. The whole thing's over with. But we're going to go through it. I gave a little bit of, an idea of what's going on and what's really at risk in the courts. And that's kind of the fine print over when Florida State and Clemson leaves, who gets the rights and how much are they going to have to pay to exit. So you got to understand, until that happens, there will not be any official offer from the Big 12, the Big 10, or the SEC. And all the talk of this one wants to hurt this one and this one wants to do that to the other. ESPN is SEC and ACC. The Big 10 is Fox. Well, guess what? The Big 12 is both. So they're all tied in. There's all leverage to be worked there. And what Deshawn said earlier, and what we've told you guys here a million times, the value, the ultimate value, the most value goes to the Big 10. Who could it hurt the most? Who is going to have the biggest gap? That would be the SEC. So they have a vested interest to possibly block that thing if they can. The Big 12, it would be great for them, but it wouldn't change things. It would just kind of be a little bit better of a Big 12. But when you look at the article, and again, just to kind of point out the qualifiers and why it isn't quite the news and the big deal that everybody thinks it is, and the end all be all. In the context of it, he starts out saying Florida State likely, and that's the very first word, is likely. There's a softener right there. Will not have a spot in the Big 10 or SEC if it's successful in leaving the ACC, and this is very important, if they're successful in leaving the ACC and the ACC stays intact. Sources told Action Network. So you tell me, Deshawn, how could the top two members of the league, which account for almost 40% of everything in the league, leave, and yet the ACC remain intact?
I don't see how. There's no way it could, because once those two big sharks leave the water, the other members that have value and know their value are going to seek the same. We already know, we've heard rumors of North Carolina. We know that North Carolina has a situation where they have a ball and chain in North Carolina State in which they're tied to. Miami does have value. uh it's not as much as it's been in the past, but let's just be real and not for the sake of trolling. Miami
Hmm.
has value. It's a
Oh yeah.
valuable program. A lot of those programs, a lot of other programs in the ACC do have some value. It's just depending on the conference. There is Big 12 has interest in several programs. There's been rumors there. We all know this. We know that the unofficial official member Notre Dame has a lot of value, but they have an argument they basically a stalemate in which they've said they do not want to join a conference. So all the chips are on the table. We all know who wants what. Everyone's going to be quiet because some people basically don't have the extension to get cut off like FSU or Clemson does. The unit, if you know what I mean. uh FSU is taking the blunt of the blows here. We all know that. We don't see a lot aimed at Clemson or any other program. Some programs remain quiet, but it's never reported that behind the scenes, some of these same programs have expressed the same interest of getting out. Because in the end game, it's about money, and no one puts certain affiliations over money unless they don't have a place to go. And we all know the rumors about other programs in the ACC who have needed to use money or take money from the likes of Clemson and Florida State to build facilities. Those are rumors. Some are true, but I leave it at that. Our
Yeah.
value is there. The other conference teams will leave once we and Clemson leave. Those who have value, like North Carolina, Duke has value, Miami has value. They'll be gone.
Nobody wants to be Oregon State. Nobody wants to be Washington State.
No.
In this day and age, it's no different than coaches. As much as we love Coach Norvell and think he's going to be here for the next 10 years, Michael Alford has a list of 5 to 10 names, not to speak for him, but he probably has a list of 5 to 10 names of possible candidates to replace him if the worst happened and whatever reason you had to replace him. That's just facts of life. That's just, if you're going to be a business, sport, anything at the top level, that's just how it goes. And the funniest part is like the same people that are blowing up all these claims, turn it into big stories, saying this means 100% FSU isn't going to the Big Ten or the SEC, are the same people who are calling us lunatics and conspiracy theorists or even considering that conversations are going on behind the scenes, and Florida State was working towards entryship into the Big Ten, which we still do. So yeah, that first little sentence, it's like a paragraph on this thing, but it's pretty much a sentence. I mean, it speaks for itself. He didn't really say
Mhm.
anything there. In the very next sentence, it goes to say, if and when the Seminoles break free from the ACC, their top choices would be to join the Big Ten or the SEC because of the huge difference in television media rights revenue. Okay, no disagreements there. We're in agreement
Mhm.
there, right?
Yes.
However, there are multiple concerns about adding Florida State, sources said. These reasons include the fact that it doesn't make financial sense for either league. There's no appetite for more expansion, and FSU has shown it's not a good partner. I'll let you start on that one.
Not a good partner. I mean, it's just another smear campaign. I heard this maybe about a few months back. It was mentioned like that, like
Mhm.
we're troublemakers. You know, we were painted as the troublemakers prior to even announcing any kind of bot meeting or anything. Why are you stirring the pot? I mean, it's still the likes of the Clemson. I mean, not Clemson, the Pitt fan bases, the Wake Forest fan base. Hit dogs holler, is the old saying.
Something
Uh,
to lose. It's all one something to
someone
lose.
had Boston College. So if those who have something to lose by us leaving are making the loudest comments, you've heard beat writers from those respective programs go vocally on the timelines on social media. You don't hear a lot from certain programs. North Carolina started, but then they switched because
Mhm.
it was kind of a bait and switch. It's sleight of hand stuff, man. It's all, you know how this works. It's all behind the scenes when you get the big wigs in boardrooms and get to talking. I look at it this way: they have devalued us nationally. They've devoured us. They devoured our program during the season last year. But when we take it into the conference, we know that certain programs that do want out. They may have said something about not wanting out, but they flipped the switch real quick when the money started to hit the floor. And I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah. Anytime you talk about anonymous sources, but then in the same article you quote certain people in high-ranking positions and things like that, you just
Mhm,
okay, just imagine who the anonymous sources are. If it was something above board and you could speak on it, they would speak on it. There's always things you can't speak on. We speak on, what's said behind closed doors about FSU
mhm,
going to the Big Ten. But to say for somebody, you got to imagine now a president, and he's alleging these are presidents of different
mhm,
universities in the Big Ten or the SEC. There's no appetite for more expansion. Okay, that's got to come from an SEC person because that's their story and they're sticking to it.
mhm,
16 teams. The next one, it's not a good partner. Florida State has shown it's not been a good partner to the ACC. Florida
That's
State has been in
crazy.
the ACC since
Ninety
1991.
two,
Technically, they didn't play their first football game till the 92
92.
season.
Mhm,
They have won three, count them, three national championships, brought
mhm,
their athletics across the board and
mhm,
academics through the roof to these top 20 programs, top 25 programs. Uh,
mhm,
like it's just been amazing what they've done. Dwarfed everyone, literally won, I think it's 16, literally half of the ACC championships since they've been there. Done
mhm,
nothing but just been an absolute just a boon for the ACC. Pretty
mhm,
much any conversation that you have that makes the ACC relevant, any stat they can brag about winning these bowl games or doing that, it used to be just FSU. Now it's FSU and Clemson.
yeah.
When you look at the eyeballs, what
Mhm,
they literally base these extensions and getting these monies for, it's 31 4 million view games for
mhm,
Florida State. It's 28 for Clemson.
mhm,
That's almost 60 over the past 12 years. It's
mhm,
like, oh, but they've just been terrible partners because they did everything they did, begged for unequal, uh, revenue distribution,
mhm,
begged in 2012, 2016, 2021, on up to now for ways to alleviate this. Everybody saw it coming. It's why there's so many great articles on Tomahawk Nation and the different
mhm,
places that were covering FSU back in 2012 when the rumor was FSU to the Big 12. And that could have been a real thing. Had FSU and Clemson jumped to the Big 12 in 2012, that's a different situation. Like they
mhm,
have a shot to argue for number one at that point in time. They probably wouldn't have been, but you have a total different, who knows, maybe Oregon, Washington do go to the Big 12 in that situation.
yeah.
But so far, this stuff is just shots and things that we've seen throughout the years. Deshawn mentioned it, and yeah, we have saw something a couple months back, but not just a couple months back. Last year, the year
Mhm,
before, as long as I can remember, there has been anonymous sources, whether it's about Jameis Winston or
mhm,
Dalvin Cook or whatever the case may be. It's just Florida State moves the needle. People like to hate on them, and yeah,
mhm,
if you're a Vanderbilt, if you're Illinois, if you're anybody in the bottom half of one of these leagues, you are hellfire against Florida State coming because that's one more tough game on your schedule. That moves you one lick more down the totem pole. It's just not what you want. And you bet your bottom dollar South Carolina is begging for no Clemson because all of a sudden they're not the number one team in South
mhm,
Carolina anymore. And we know for a fact Florida does not want Florida State in the SEC. So who are these presidents? Who are the anonymous sources? Who is he talking to? Who are the people that he's talking to? Okay, that's the question. Is it the people that are going to benefit? Is it because I guarantee
mhm,
you Fox wants Florida State. If you
mhm,
think it's not financially sound and there's no reason there to add the southeastern region to the Big Ten, to not
mhm,
add Florida State, Ohio State, Florida State, Michigan, all the things I just said,
mhm.
I don't know what to tell you. You're nuts. But if you have anything before I move on to the next paragraph.
Yeah, I would throw one more thing out. Do you remember the rumor mill that Nebraska was fearful of being kicked out of the Big Ten?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do that.
They when we're talking about that, they have something to lose with Clemson and Florida State joining. They have some
Mhm.
because their relevancy from 2001, which they last played for national champ, or 2001, last national championship appearance to now has really dipped. It's dipped heavily. They're no longer, they're a shell of the program they were in the 90s and beyond before that. They have a lot to lose by other programs. If you're looking at the table, you're like, wait a minute, we just let USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington in. They're looking at their plate and they're looking, okay,
Mhm.
AAU situation from for us. We're already on thin ice with the league because we're not performing in the athletics that count. We're not, they don't win in basketball. They haven't been consistent winners in football for over 20 years now. They have
Mhm.
a lot to lose here. When your AD leaves your program and he is a famous alum, that's a red flag. There's a lot of things going on there with that program. And I'm not saying that is, I would say allegedly, but I know the rumors that came out. So I don't want to say, I don't want anybody to ding me on it, but those rumors were out there that Nebraska was really worried about being put out of the Big Ten.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And here's what happens. And Nebraska didn't come to mind, but you're right. Those questions have been out there. But here's what happens. As soon as Florida State, Clemson, and Notre Dame find their way to the Big Ten or the SEC, it's all over.
Mm-hmm.
The hope of a third power conference is all over. The
Dead.
hope of a Sun Belt team jumping straight from the Sun Belt to a power conference is over. AAC to a power conference, over. You're going to have to jump to a skeleton ACC or a Big 12 like UCF and Houston done. You'll have
Mm-hmm.
to work yourself to the top and try to become a relegation team. And the next conversation that happens is, what about Nebraska? What about Vanderbilt? Now
Mm-hmm.
that we're going to be paying $100 million per school just for football, why
Mm-hmm.
should we have a team that's not serious about it, that isn't even on the same planet as the rest of these schools?
Mm-hmm.
And I won't spend a lot of time. I saw somebody talking about the Big 12 equity. That's not necessarily what this one's talking about. I want to stay on
Mm-hmm.
topic until I get through the Brett McMurphy article and all the rumors and set everybody's fears aside. And I can point to this and tell everybody, look, bam, I completely debunked
Mm-hmm.
all the rumors, everything. You can go watch this podcast and know it. But here's why the
Yes.
private equity doesn't work for Big 12. Am I saying they can't figure out how to pay us $80 million for a couple year? Might somehow be able to convince unequal revenue sharing for the rest of the conference, which I doubt because they hated that shit with Texas. And that's why they
Mm-hmm.
lost them, because
Mm-hmm.
they were fighting them on that. Same reason the ACC is losing FSU and Clemson, because they had every opportunity to do that. But should they get over that, somehow they've learned from their ways and they're willing to suck it up and add a Florida State and a Clemson to be, whatever, at least somewhat of a power
Mm-hmm.
conference out there. Should that happen, what happens when the SEC and the Big Ten renegotiate their contracts in 2027 and then 2029 and 2031?
Yeah.
They'll be up to 140 and they'll be maxed out with leverage to the hilt and owing money at 85, 90. And they're going to say, sorry, we can't do nothing. It's going to take years.
Mm-hmm.
Da, 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 da. And FSU is going to be totally screwed. You're going back to the same exact thing
Mm-hmm.
the ACC did when it kept Raycom, when they did that whole thing in
Yep.
2010 and 2012 and then 2016. It just doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on with the article, so we can get through this thing. Let's see, where were we at here? Okay. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey was asked at Monday's SEC Media Days how closely he was following the legal challenges by FSU and Clemson to exit the ACC. He said, and quote, "We're focused on our 16, period. I'm not going to guess about what happens next. We can certainly remain at 16 for a long, long time and be
Mm-hmm.
incredibly successful." I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if there's ever a sidestep, and I'm not going to comment on anything to do with the future, if I've ever seen it, that's it. There is
Mm-hmm.
literally nothing there. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so maybe it's later that we see where he said that the SEC will never add Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
Action Network contacted more than a dozen individuals, including university presidents, conference personnel, athletic directors, network executives,
Negatives.
and
Yeah.
well, I did not even see that. That went right over my head earlier. So network executives, just imagine as a unanimous source, you're a network executive, you're an athletic director for somebody that isn't involved, just
Mm-hmm.
somebody, just looking from afar, maybe in the bottom half of a conference. Oh
Mm-hmm.
my goodness. So yeah, none would be identified because of the sensitivity regarding conference realignment. Would you
Mm-hmm.
just imagine that none would be identified? 3 SEC presidents recently told Action Network they had no interest in adding Florida State. It takes 12 of the 16 SEC presidents to favor adding another school. And we know how they get it. You go to all 16 and they say they wouldn't be in favor. What happens is they get in these meetings and the numbers get presented and stuff happens, and then you find out.
Yep.
So again, there's nobody's going to go on a parade for asking for Florida State or Clemson because it can be brought up as collusion and other things.
Tampering, yes.
The Big Ten is also not interested in the Seminoles, sources said. Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti is staying away from expansion, and we're taking Tony's lead, a source said. Why would anyone want to expedite more chaos by adding Florida State? One source, however, cautioned, never say never about FSU going to the Big Ten because there could be a path if the ACC disintegrates. So there's that part about if the ACC stays together. If you think the ACC stays together after this, there is no chance in hell. And again, Florida State or ESPN has to lock in that extension. They've got till February 1st of 2025 to sign up to pay that exorbitant rate, that FSU Clemson rate through 2036. And if you think they're doing that when FSU and Clemson aren't locked into that conference, you have fell and bumped your fucking head. Excuse my language. So before I go too much further, do you want to jump in?
No, go ahead, man. You're doing good. Right. Go.
So here's the next part here. There is no appetite among the presidents unless there is some catastrophic development with the ACC and it forces the Big Ten into a decision. Now, let me get this straight. Big Ten and the SEC, they have no interest in Florida State or SEC. But if the ACC were to disintegrate, basically, if Florida State and Clemson were to become available, then they would be forced to possibly add them and make. Help me understand, Deshawn. I don't understand because, is there some rule that the NCAA says that if the ACC disintegrates, that the Big Ten is responsible for making sure that each team finds a happy home? Is that how it works?
No, they take who they want. I don't. That's what I understand. We're basically talking about three conferences vying for what's going to be left when the ACC does disintegrate, because it will. Once both programs that lead the ship, that steer the ship, leave, we know we've already discussed that. So yeah, I don't believe a second of what's been said. But it's all just soft talk. You can't legally say, yeah, we want them when they're contractually obligated and in litigation against the current conference. It just is what it is.
And you risk pissing off other people, the people in the conference who don't want them. I mean, just saying you don't want them or no comment is just the safe way to go. And especially if you're anonymous and trying to drive a message.
Exactly.
And the people that are for it, they don't need to drive some freaking anonymous message behind some freaking thing. But I'll keep reading this thing, keep blowing through it. I forgot exactly how long this darn thing is, but we're about halfway through it again, I think. Let's see where we are here. If the ACC blows up, who picks first between the Big Ten and the SEC? Who picks second? If there is a need and desire to expand, you take inventory so your competitors don't get it. But the president and chancellors are looking for stability. Despite what the social media geniuses are suggesting, no one, the leagues, the networks, is driving expansion. So basically, he's explaining to us just what college football is. Really nothing there. That could change if the ACC no longer exists. That's kind of the whole point. That's why Florida State is in court with the ACC. Like, they're leaving regardless. That's the thing that people don't understand and what we've reported up, down, and sideways. Florida State and Clemson. I can't report so hard on Clemson because I'm not that much in the know for them. But Florida State, look, they're leaving. They're leaving the ACC. It's all we're finding out is how much they're going to owe and how much they're going to have to pay to get out. That is it. Seriously. And believe it or not, it is what it is. We told you the facts. And you can read the tea leaves. Find me a Florida State source, a real one, um, that has said this thing's over. Florida State is no longer going to the Big Ten or the SEC, and it's going to be the Big 12. And if you find them, I'll probably say they're actually a Miami fan or something like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
anyone with any credibility, they're laughing. They've been laughing in your face. I mean, I've seen some that's like they're just laughing about it. It's like, okay, you know,
yeah.
it's just wild.
So again, they said that could change if the ACC is gone. But if the price to get the ACC is too prohibitive, that Florida State and Clemson are the only schools to exit, what happens then? And again, that's worthless. That's a throwaway paragraph. We've addressed it 3 times. What happens if FSU and Clemson leaves and the rest of the people don't want to leave? I don't know. They're going to have to make a new grant of rights. They're going to have to figure out a way to, without Florida State and Clemson, figure out how much that thing's worth. And I'm here to tell you, it is a giant, huge,
Mhm,
drastic tumble. It just is. We went through all the statistics again. 64 million view or over games between
mhm,
Florida State and Clemson. The rest of the conference and combined doesn't equal that. It's
yeah,
like 50 or something, like a lot less. And of
mhm,
those 50, the majority of them were either against Florida State or Clemson. They
mhm,
overlap. Like there just is no question. There is no close. It's like Florida State and Clemson around 4 million. Miami gets up close to 3 million, and it's just a freaking floodgate, a drop off of the Grand Canyon after that. And I won't get into the Big 12 and how they don't have a single person in the top 20 recruiting or anything like that, because that's a topic for another day.
mhm,
But people think since we talk shit about the ACC, it means the Big 12 is better as it currently is. People think the Big 12 currently right now is the third best conference. They believe that in their heart of their hearts. And I just say, bless your heart on that. Some other anonymous source says, what's the upside of Florida State? Uh, we got what we need by adding USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington, who again at the time was said about Oregon and Washington that they have what they needed with USC and UCLA. They don't need USC or they don't need Washington and Oregon. They will not be considering it. Yada yada. Again, the same exact saying they said to us. Who would
mhm,
Florida State help and at what cost? And most importantly, who is going to pay for it?
mhm.
As we told you all guys, Florida State's going to pay its way. It's going to figure that part. And if you can't do the math and figure out how Florida State being added to the Big Ten helps your bottom line, how you make money off of that,
Mhm.
well, then you just don't know anything about college football. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, don't let me just keep rambling. I'm reading kind of fast to get through this freaking article before
No,
we want
you
to hit
good, but
the
I just add to it, man. Just tag on and piggyback off what you said. When you're talking about the value, we're talking about the aspect of not only just the university, but let's just keep it sports, the recruiting footprint, the television markets, because it would open the door for the Big Ten to get into the southern region, which
Mhm,
you have your cities like Atlanta, Miami, your Jacksonville, all those cities in the deep south. They get their footprint there. Then it opens the door not only for the powerhouses to be able to consistently recruit and come down there, like your Ohio States who have cleaned up, your Michigans who come down there. Now you'll be able to say your Penn States can consist. Well, they come down there, but your Minnesotas, your Iowas, they're able to come down and continue because now, hey, I can be seen on TV in Georgia or I can be
yep.
seen on TV in Florida because the footprint is there, or
Mama can
South
sign it.
Carolina, yeah, South Carolina. So now these kids can say, okay, I can come down to Florida because I know I can be vice versa. A kid from Ohio can say, I can come play down in Florida. I can go play in South Carolina because I know mom and dad or my family will be able to see me when I travel to Columbus or when I travel to Ann Arbor. Those situations like that. It just makes perfect sense when we put aside our feelings, when those other people put aside their emotions, those naysayers, their emotions or their dislikes, and they look at the money.
Hmm.
This is a capitalist society. You think money is going to be stopped? No. People want to make money. We would bring more money to a situation. And then academically, they can sit and argue academics. Academically, Florida State is above Michigan State and Oregon in academics alone.
Hmm.
You know, we're
Yep.
right. We would find ourselves somewhere right in the middle spot in the Big Ten. we'd be in right now without anything, as I've stated before, without anything that's going on campus now involving AAU, the research and development, we would be a leader in the Big 12. We
Yeah.
would be
Oh
in the
yeah.
middle or in the upper echelons in the SEC
Mhm.
academically. We're not
Fact.
even talking sports now. We're football. We're talking just see. We have to get it past just the sports aspect. This. We're talking business, the business of education, acquiring money, growing universities, research and development. All of these things play a part in this, and people just want to keep it football. It's not just football. I'm done.
No, you're
Before I
right. There's
go
a
on the
lot of
rant, man.
things. There's a lot of puzzle pieces to fit
Yeah.
in. And last week, before all these sources started speaking and people started tweeting out with these opinions in the shape of facts, the
Hmm.
big excuse was, "Oh, FSU's AAU," even though we've already debunked that. Big Ten's debunked it.
Exactly.
Nebraska's debunked it. All these things have debunked it. They try to use that against us. But literally, in case you didn't know, on the 22nd, we have a board of trustees meeting. What is the
Hmm.
top thing on the ballot? AAU accreditation, the money that has to do with it, and how to move forward with getting it. Florida State has been sending players for a couple years now to Big Ten leadership conferences.
Hmm.
They've got the plans, the money already set aside to build a big medical research
Hmm.
facility, and that's what AAU is. It appropriates about $500 billion of freaking, or is it $500 million? It's a shit ton of money. I think it's $500 million is what
Yeah,
it is,
500 million.
amongst 30, 40 schools, something like that, each year. So it's huge. It's separated from academics.
Hmm.
It's research. There's a bit of a difference, but Florida State, they're up there in academics and working on growing in research. And that is something they're after, something that they wouldn't be going after if they thought they had no chance at the Big Ten. But I digress. We'll get bogged down and never get
Hmm.
through this thing. The next sentence they could go on, if the ACC no longer exists, and after literally saying, "Oh, what financial, what does FSU offer? What could they do? Who's going to pay for their share in the Big Ten?" After saying that, on the other side of their mouth, they say, out of the ACC, North Carolina and Virginia would be highly sought after by the SEC and Big Ten. So yeah, you decide if you think they're more value, would bring more to the table, all those things. Even if you're looking at cable boxes and things of that nature,
Hmm.
it doesn't work. Going down to the next thing here, look what they did. Getting the attorney general involved, accusing former ACC commissioner John Swofford of rigging television rights to help his son, filing a suit to expose ESPN's TV deals, something the other three power leagues are against, by the way, the source said. They're not a good partner. There's no congeniality. No one wants that. That's just high school fucking drama. You want to
It
comment on
is.
that? Guys, if you can't take that shit from what it is,
I'll just leave it at this, and I'm gonna keep it short. Attorney General Moody is a Florida Gator. She's a UF grad. She has no fight in the game to help anything FSU. What are we doing? If we're sitting here and you're saying we're getting the AG involved, we did nothing. She has nothing. She has. If she's a Gator,
a bull
but
gator.
she's doing her job, and her job is to protect the interest of the businesses in the state of Florida. And Florida State is, we're talking business. Once again, it is a business, not just a university. Everything operates as a business. And she's just protecting a public business, a government entity within the state of Florida. That's it. You put aside the politics, you put aside all of the other affiliations and all that stuff, and you do what's right. That's all she's doing.
Yeah, man. These are such morally founded guys. These presidents, man. I just look at how loving they were to the Pac-12. Just the kind of partners they really care about
Yeah.
the moral compass of these presidents of these schools and things like that. UC, USC, UCLA.
Hmm.
Yeah, those are great people. We're happy to have them in the Big Ten. But FSU, not wanting to be the last power team left in a sinking ship, they're just terrible for wanting to be in our great conference. Oh, I'm moving on. Added another Big Ten source. There are too many negatives. They've proven to be a disruptive partner. It's crazy. What are the odds that you think separate people that haven't talked to people at different schools that were contacted all said disruptive partner? Like, I've never heard disruptive partner literally in my entire life. And we're on, like, is this the same person that got quoted 10 times? He talked to 12, only listed 3 different people's quotes.
Yes.
Let me know in the chat. Have y'all ever heard of disruptive partner? Because I'm tired of reading it. There's also Florida State's Association. Oh, look, we hadn't even got to that part. We've already explained it. With the AAU status considered, every Big Ten school is a member of the prestigious AAU, except for Nebraska, which was one until it wasn't, and they currently aren't. And Florida State is not currently either, but they plan to become one, and they've got a meeting about it next week. While it's not a requirement for Big Ten schools, but to have AAU members, it is a preference.
Yes.
Holy shit. It's clubby among the presidents and AA membership. It's significant to them, a source said. Remember, these are presidents and chancellors that make these decisions. Yeah, if the Big Ten and SEC aren't options, the Big 12 would seem to be a potential landing spot, sources said. Yeah, but they're all for FSU to the Big 12 because none of these issues, morals and all that stuff applies to them. I don't even know if there's anything more left of this good. There's like, let's see, it just gets into the stuff last week from Brett Yomark, the second half of it to reinforce it. Yeah, that's it. I'm going to open up the phone line. I know this is a hot topic conversation. I've tried to cover as much as the circumstances and situations between me and Deshawn as we possibly can and lay all that out for you guys. If you are worried or if you feel like anything we've told you here has changed, that should not be the case. And nothing in that article changed any of my opinions, anybody I talked to's opinions. And if you want to read the tea leaves on who says what and goes on where and who's friends with who and who says what and all these different things, you can do it. But I would caution using an Arizona blogger to get you get your information about what Florida State's plans are, or a guy, that just completely, he puts qualifiers and softens every single statement everywhere he goes. If they leave and it remains intact, if this and if that, and it's all anonymous and repeated things. Guys, I'll say it again. Deshawn's kind of stated clearly his point earlier. Florida State will be out of the ACC by the year 2026 and be into the Big Ten is my prediction. Obviously, nothing is 100%. Anybody that tells you they know the exact plan, the order of what's going to happen, they're lying. It's just how it is. All we know is there's some people that know the plan and kind of what the best case scenario of all the dominoes fell right are, but that's it. The first thing that will have to come is FSU announcing their exit. We will not know if the ACC is going to crumble. We will not know this. We will not know that until that happens. That has to happen. And in order for that to happen, this lawsuit has to get settled or has to end up coming to fruition. It's not coming to fruition for a long time. If we're waiting for that, buckle up your seatbelts. It's going to get pushed back, and it's going to be August of 2025. August 15th, 2025. That's when we're going to get our answer. It'll be like August 14th or maybe in July, like we're thinking it might possibly be this year. That's when it'll be. And that'll be a whole year down the road for everything if it's right on track before Florida State puts their name in the hat and tells them we're leaving. And if you think this opinion poll or whatever this, Matt Baker, the way he put it is, it's kind of like a temperature reading of the situation from a respected journalist. That's a fair way to put it. And that's a right now and what they're looking to do and what their focus is right now. That's what the SEC leader said. Sankey said, right now, that was his answer to the question. Right now, we're focused on our 16. And the Big Ten people were all just stuff we've heard already. The nasty stuff, the stuff you hear Illinois fans say on radio shows and things of that nature. But we do have our first guest caller calling in. As I bring up the bat line here, you are live on the Renegade Rundown. What can we do for you?
Hey, George. How's it going?
How's it going, man?
All right.
This is David. I was wanted to see. I apologize if I missed y'all talking about this. I just got on a few minutes ago, but I watched a video that Mark Rogers put out this morning. He was talking about relationships with like Notre Dame and whoever else, talking about how FSU didn't have a good one with Notre Dame specifically, and that they may be able to tell the Big Ten, if y'all let Florida State in, then they would have issues with that, and their potential joining at some point. Y'all have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's a great question. We'll definitely comment on that. I know I got a few minutes worth on it, man. We appreciate you calling in, Chris. You want to go first?
Ahead,
Want me to go first?
Oh, you go ahead, man. You got it, and then I'll go.
All right. So, man, where'd you go with this? I'm blanking. You go first because I've totally blanked.
Okay. I put it this way: Notre Dame has, behind the scenes, been a thorn in our ass, and in a lot of the programs' ass. And basically, let's put it this way: mostly every program in the AC's ass. They've gotten money that they didn't deserve because they're not a full member. They've gotten more than their share. They've gotten portions of shares from the two programs in the conferences won anything within the last. I'm not going to go on a troll rant, but I'm going to go on a rant. Within the last 30 goddamn years, what are we doing here? We keep allowing this one particular university who does not want to be within a conference, even with the large changing landscape of the of college football. We've allowed them to manipulate, or the administration of these conferences keep allowing them to manipulate situations. If that's true, well, we already know Notre Dame has played a big factor, a big part in what we're dealing with now. Because whether it's rumor or true, and I believe true, there was a lot of false promises that were made to the programs within the universities within the ACC based on Notre Dame's joining, and they got fucked by the ACC because Notre Dame never intended on joining the conference, but they get more than their share for not being a full member. And it's time for for those universities to stand up and stop cowering to this particular university and what they're doing. Because now, if that's true, now they're trying to manipulate the Big Ten, the same conference that they've screwed over themselves to, and keep telling them, no, we don't want to go. No, we don't want to go. It's the same thing. I'm going to leave it at that. You go ahead, George.
But Florida State's a bad partner.
Yeah.
So Encyclopedia, my guy, another one of these OGs like Jeff Hill, comes in with the $2 super chat, says, thanks, George and Deshawn. No problem, bro. We're here for you as always, to set the record straight if we possibly can. Yeah, I totally blanked on the question. But you're right. How could our relationships with Notre Dame and North Carolina and these different teams affect us going forward? Okay, from a 10,000-foot view and just a logical view, here's how I'll explain it. There is a finite number of resources when it comes to elite or national contenders in college football. It's the genesis of why Florida State has to get out of the ACC. There's not enough teams wanting to climb to that level, and they can't reach the money they need with all these other teams dragging them down. They need to be able to compete with these top teams. The only ones that currently aren't in the SEC or the Big Ten as of right now are Florida State, Clemson, and Notre Dame. You've got guys like North Carolina, Miami that have a possibility of getting back there. They've got all the things in place to possibly be there, but they haven't been. Okay, it's it's Florida State, it's Clemson, it's Notre Dame. Could Notre Dame try to make that play? Maybe they could do it out of one or the other. They could maybe try it at the Big Ten. That's where they're going. But guys, they've been trying to the Big Ten. They've been trying to get Notre Dame to sign up for 100 million years. I don't, as far as bad blood and talk on the field and things like that, I don't think Notre Dame would let, feelings get in the way of a dollar if it came to scheduling Florida State. It's like, or they wouldn't be in this deal with the ACC playing 5 teams a year, and it wouldn't seem that Florida State plays them more than everybody else if that were the case. And yeah, you want to talk about, it's like, you can't say one thing about one school and then not say about another. Like Notre Dame has been, flirting with and screwing up everybody for years and years, staying independent. They did this thing, like you said, it's well known behind the scenes, promises that were made about being a full partner, all these things. One of the reasons Florida State is leaving is because Notre Dame held the gun to the head to the conference, all the teams with COVID and all that stuff going on, got supposedly a full share. Some teams got this, got that. You spoke about the rumors earlier. But at the end of the day, all they have done is suck value off the ACC and used it for their means and
Mhm.
continued to get playoff berths, in situations where Florida State probably wouldn't have got one, just based on politics and things of that nature. Because Florida State was in the ACC and they weren't. They were considered to be a national schedule and went out and did these things and didn't even have to play in a conference championship. I think Notre Dame's going to have to buckle up and eventually go to a power conference, and maybe these rumors get out there and things, because if Florida State again and Clemson went to power conferences, that would be it. It'd be Notre Dame all by themselves. They'd be the only ones out there. Who are they going to schedule? Scheduling the AC, they don't have the option to schedule Florida State and Clemson and Miami, and round it out with a couple of teams here and there. Eventually, they're going to have to play ball with ESPN or Fox. They can be on NBC, but who are they going to play? NBC has nobody else left in the portfolio. So I'm not too worried about that. As far as North Carolina, they may have some pull as far as it goes to the SEC, but I think that stuff is more regional. Like, Florida could help block Florida State more than they could have anything to do with the Clemson part of it. I could be wrong about that, but that's all, that's all politics and things like that. I wouldn't read too much and then been able to keep Florida State out of anything, but there's definitely some history there. There's no doubt.
Yeah, I would put that in comparison to Texas A&M didn't have much power in keeping Texas out.
Yep.
So, when the money, like I said, when the money's on the floor, on the table, business is going to be business. We're going to do what's best to keep business booming because it's good for them right now. And we would be great for business. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I was thinking about that earlier, and I dropped it. If an SEC team had the power to keep a team out and all those things of that nature, just like you said, there would be no Texas. And that was like even a promise that was made. Like, look, we're not expanding. We're happy here. We're not going to. So if you think a random person or a person, the SEC commissioner saying just at this moment we're only worried about 16 means they weren't go out and get a Clemson or a UNC or a Florida State or whatever the case may be. Whatever. I've got some oceanfront property in Arizona for you, ready to sell. Again, that phone number is up there, 850-495-1906. If you have any questions concerning conference realignment, Florida State's lawsuit, yada yada, the whole 9 yards, any worries about any tweets or stories that you want set straight, any questions, so you can run and clip it, go say George said this, yada yada. Now's the time. Speak now or forever hold your peace. But as we get up here on an hour, I guess we could talk a little bit about recruiting. We've got our calendar coming up with some commitment dates, and also, since we didn't get to talk about our guy Daylon McCutcheon out of Texas, I believe we have some highlights here we can add to the stage, and talk about our latest top 100 wide receiver added, alongside CJ Wiley. We now have 2 top 100 receivers in this class. It would be the first time since, I think, along with offensive linemen, in a long time. I believe it would be since 2015 that we had 2 top 100 wide receivers. And my best player comparison is going to be Rashad Green on this guy, about 6 foot. And he has that smoothness that makes it look easy glide that Rashad Green had. And a lot of people are talking about him being a guy that could possibly compete as a freshman and kind of look different. How does Deshawn Adams feel about our guy?
I'll take Clay's narration. He got a little bit of Jackson Smith and Jigba in him too. He's a smooth, polished route runner, versatile enough to do your slot guy, but he can play outside. He's real crisp in what he does. So I could see him being a player that could come in and actually contribute somewhere early as a freshman. Big play guy. I think he's what, 6'1" or 6. Is he like 6 foot 6'1" maybe?
I want to say he's 6 foot even, but I'm pulling him up right here just so we don't lie.
Yeah. But that's the big comp, and I agree with Clay. He makes a lot of big catches, makes harder catches look easy. Return kick, I think he had like 90 catches last year as a junior with like 1,300 yards or something, like 20 touchdowns.
5'11", 175.
Yeah. I can see a lot of Jackson in him, not just the number and not the uniforms, his high school uniforms, but it is some things that's similar to him that he does. He's not a burner, but he's real crisp in his route. So I can see where the Rashad Green comparison comes in also. Real good route runner, very steady. He'd be a very consistent, move the chains kind of receiver. That could be a polished star, very polished right now for high school at this point. And I think he played with, I can't remember the receiver, but he's on a good program that has other talented wide receivers.
Yeah, no doubt. It just running down that sideline, I just boom,
Mm-hmm.
that's the picture I got was the flash of Rashad Green, but big
Mm-hmm.
time wide receiver, big time pickup for the Knowles. A guy that Jim wasn't too keen on. I didn't really have any feeling. I was kind of indifferent. It just seemed like
Mm-hmm.
50-50 to me. Can't
Mm-hmm.
remember. I think you were around the same kind of talk, but
60-40 kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
getting him was just a nice one. It was you
Yeah.
weren't too invested, but it's a nice top 100 kid to get in here, another wide receiver. And it's like you look at these different classes and kind of what they're bringing in this year.
Mm-hmm.
Last year's recruiting class, guys, was the best one Norvell's had by a long shot. You brought in
Mm-hmm.
27 blue chips, including the walk-on. You brought 16 just out of high school, which was 7 more than the previous year. You only brought 9.
Mm-hmm.
50% blue chip ratio, up to 70%. You did all these great things. You signed 4 wide receivers, 4 or 5 DBs. Really great class. You signed a top 100 line, a top 100 wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
You turn around this year, you've already got 2 top 10 offensive linemen. You've got Josh Petty coming up. You've already got 2 top 100 wide receivers, and we've got the opportunity as we sit here and let Daylon McCutcheon's highlights fade. A guy in Vernell Brown, and I know it's a touchy subject or whatever, but he commits this coming up Sunday. I believe it's July 21st.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you add Josh Petty, who we have penciled in, who commits on August 12th, still a ways out, that would be 3 top 100 O linemen for Florida State, which would pass the first time through since, whatever. We'd have to look back. It may go back to the aughts or in the
Mm-hmm.
90s, the last time we've had 3 elite, like 2 5-stars and 1 borderline 4-stars. Unreal.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to go back. Are we going to have 3 top 100 wide receivers as well, or what?
Man, it's tough. I think it's a possibility, but it is, to be honest, it's hard to get past that legacy, that one word. And he's legacy
Double
twice,
legacy. Yeah.
double granddad and pops. It's hard to put that get past that. But I mean, our class as it is in that room is very, very good with Wiley and McCutcheon. Adding Brown would be more than the proverbial cherry on top, as they would say. I think I'll say I'll be a wait and see. It's
Yeah.
hard to believe, but hey, if it happens, the way it's been trending is who we've expected to get. Sometimes we get left at the altar, and then when who we like, I don't know if we get him, then we get this big surprise. So I'd rather stay in a place where, all right, I got a little doubt here, so he'll end up in the fold.
Yeah. You never know. Look, I know we feel some about the same way. But this is
Mm,
how I articulate it. I've got experience here. I had about the same exact thing with LJ McCray last year.
mhm,
There's some that these legacy or just straight slam dunk Florida recruits do
mhm,
the last couple weeks of recruiting in order to build up hype for that
mhm,
Florida State hat to be up there and mean something, to get the
mhm,
Florida State people tuned in so the insiders can laugh and say, ooh, oh, yeah, oh, definitely Florida State. And they say
mhm,
it rolling their eyes and all these things, and they end up going the opposite way. It was just to do
mhm,
that. I'm not accusing Vernell Brown of it. I'm not
mhm,
saying that. I'm just saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me
mhm,
twice, shame on me.
mhm,
And it's probably always shame on me. I've been gotten so many times on this that I refuse to be gotten. So, like, I was never going to be all on this. I was never going to come up here, put in a crystal ball, say I was all
mhm,
for it. I was never going to do that.
mhm,
But also, I was just I thought we were out of it, no shot, not in a million years. I thought maybe that picture was kind of trolling and a little bit of love we got around his official visit. And that
mhm,
was that. We weren't going to hear nothing about it. But now it's gotten to the point when you talk to people you trust and you hear different things from different people
mhm,
that it's like a legitimate battle and Florida State really has a shot. Now
Yeah.
you could hear all these things, and this kid could legitimately be lying. He could legitimately be pretending like he has a shot and saying that to these coaches, like I think has happened again in the situation I explained before in the past. Leave them thinking they have a shot when the plan was. That's what the plan was. Like kids, like they have the ability to lie and play these things up, ham these things up for publicity. They're not idiots. NIL is involved now. If everybody knows Vernell Brown is going to Florida and that's it, and that's all the ceremony is, a third of the people are going to tune in. If Florida State really thinks they're getting them, it's just going to change the game. And again, if you're watching this, if you're Vernell Brown's people, I'm sorry. I'm not talking shit. I'm not even saying that's him. I'm just saying that that's the game. That's where I am on it. It's not like he's been a favorite the whole time. It's hard for me to believe it. I want to eat my words and see him commit and not, no bullshit. I've heard legit people, like people I trust, say it's a legit tug of war, it's a battle, and it could happen. So we will see. But that's it on Vernell Brown. Somebody came up and mentioned, I'll say his name, Jabori Antone, aka Boosie, out of St. Iberia, Louisiana, over there. He was formerly committed to LSU, decommitted to LSU. Now looking at LSU, Florida State, and Miami. Looked like it was Florida State, then Miami, then Florida State, then LSU again, then back to Miami. Right now, I'm kind of like 50-50 on it. Like it's really hard for me. The jockeying for position in the DB board has been crazy back and forth. And there's so many guys on the board. I know we've said it over and over again, but there's like 10 guys on the board. And there's only 4 spots. Ladarian Clarity, not to get ahead of myself, but Boosie set his for Saturday, which is the 20th. August 3rd is a big date. There's some big names. Add Ladarian Clarity to that list. So that's another FSU commit who has been trending Florida State for a couple of days after being like really trending for Ole Miss. My question has always been on for him is how much is the staff pressuring him to commit? How much are they after him at this moment? I know he's got the offer, but the way these things work, it's just different. You know, they plan these things out. It's no like accident that our commitments happen there like 8, 9 all in a row at the beginning of July. That's when they want to do it. And when it doesn't happen there, and then you get one, scheduled out of the blue on August 3rd, maybe there was a breakthrough. Maybe Florida State got it done. But if they were to say sign Boosie and Clardy, well, that means, okay, no Snowfall. That means no Fitzgerald. That means who else am I missing? Are they still recruiting Arnaud who committed to USC? Like what's
Arnaud,
so you
Jordan Young,
I feel like it's like there's a certain number that have committable offers, a certain number that are on the fence, and it's kind of first come, first serve, and then go from there. It kind of feels like what Patrick Surtain's doing. And you got elite kids deciding whether they want to step into one hell of a rotation and be a part of something special, or do they want to go somewhere and be kind of the top DB for that class? And Florida State treats that level. So it's like, you either go, you can get that at Georgia, you can get it at Alabama, you can get it at Ohio State to some degree, or now you can go get it at Florida State, baby. That's just how it is.
Exactly. I just look at it as the same thing, man. It's just there's tiers to it. There's tiers to the offers. It's just like every offer you see is not necessarily completely committable when you're talking about recruiting. And that's from both perspectives, the staff's perspective and that prospect's perspective. Yeah, I got this offer, but I don't know if I'm necessarily wanting to commit. That's going back to the VV situation. Then we look at the other situation with Clarity. That's a committable offer, but like we've already discussed, if the staff is recruiting him a particular kind of way and not pressing like they may press for one, this is how it goes in recruiting. Okay, if we have a board. These are our top guys. If we don't have these guys, these are our fallback plans. It doesn't mean that they're bad players. It just means on our board for our scheme and our fit, we view these particular prospects higher. That's it.
Facts on top of facts on top of facts. I think we've about hit everything.
Yes, we have.
Jared Smith is another guy that's committing on August 3rd, but if something crazy happens, we'll give you a commitment, but that's just one of those. You sit there with your fingers crossed as of the moment. But I would just absolutely, that would be great if you get him. But it's tough. Tough. Anything, if you have a question, now's the time. I'm looking at 1 hour and 10 minutes. That's a pretty clean giveaway. We'll give you till 1 hour and 12 minutes to get a question off before we leave. Somebody says here, Wilmer says, "Will Brett McAsshole's article?" Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done it. Brett, I'm just kidding, man. You're a good guy. Will it affect recruiting? I saw somebody arguing that. And look, that's the idea. That's what these other teams would like to hope. That's all this is with these anonymous comments and everybody blowing out of proportion. That's what it is. It's perception. They want people to, who's going to tweet out or want to be happy and say, yeah, we suck, like Florida State. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's all perception. It's all clicks. Brett McMurphy's no idiot. He saw Jason Schneer, a guy who just happens to blog for 247 for Arizona, not to crap on Arizona or anything like that, but the FSU media is a little bit more competitive than the Arizona media. That's all I'm going to say, and I'll just say that. But for whatever reason, he had the inside track on what's going on for FSU football, and that thing went nuts. So if you're a Brett McMurphy, and whether he owns that Action Network or he's got points or whatever, I know he's one of their early people, one of his biggest people. If you can put out an article like that and get those kind of numbers, stir up what you can. That's how you go viral. When all these different shows, respectable outlets, when Noel Game Day, everybody is doing, even doing stories on your article, you win. You get money, you get clicks, you get advertisement. So what you can do? Jason Myers asked if Brett McMurphy's source with Paul Feinbaum. Yeah, that it sure sounds like it, don't it?
Yeah.
Maybe that's where that what was it? Something partner. I can't remember how he put that, but unmanageable partner, untenable partner, whatever the hell it was. Disruptive partner.
Disruptive, yes. I would liken it to this. No one buys newspapers like they used to 30 years ago.
No.
So McMurphy comes from that ilk, from that mold, from that generation. So he's moving with the times, and he understands to get people to buy and gain interest is I got to create a buzz. Even though he's credible. I'm not knocking his credibility, his journalistic integrity. I'm saying that he doesn't have all his ducks in a row. And also he did, as you stated, soften a lot of the words so he wouldn't be necessarily liable for any backlash when the real truths come out.
That's what it was. Qualifiers and softeners. No real problems with anything he said. I had big problems with the people quoted. So that's just him quoting people. My bigger issue was the response, the quote tweets by respectable people, the articles that were written, the YouTube lives that happened, immediate responses, drawing conclusions. That's what I wanted to clear up for our fans so they can know everything is Gucci. We're good to go. And yeah, we're to the end of the line. I messed up and didn't even ask you about your YouTube channel at the end of the show last time. I felt terrible about it, but
it's
make sure
fine.
you let everybody know about what y'all have going on over there.
Yeah, Double D's Let's Talk Ball podcast. We're getting ready to really ramp this thing up. We've been a little busy with practice because we both coach our children in youth ball. But that's Double D's Gaming, also D's Corner, DSCORNER. We're also getting into gaming, as everyone knows. NCAA drop. So once we hit Friday, we will be starting to go live on Twitch and YouTube with our gameplay and playing each other. He's been whooping my tail lately in it, so I've been working in the lab trying to get better. But that's
maybe
where
I can
we're
be
at
the
right
color
now.
guy for y'all.
Yeah, man. I mean, once we get into the season, man, we're gonna get you and Jen on that way. We could give aspects of the season, with the FSU particular players. We're gonna do that, and we got other plans in the works for that. But I thank you for that opportunity to allow me to talk about the show, and just y'all make sure y'all hit like, share, and subscribe.
Absolutely. And meet us back here. What's today? Tomorrow, go check me out. Voice of College Football with Mark Rogers, the FSU Voice of College Football. Be me and James Coleman and Chris Fraser, as always, Wednesday, 6 Eastern. And then be back here Friday around 7 Eastern for the Renegade Rundown. And again, Sunday, I believe we're going to have Chris Fraser with us Sunday to react to that commitment, see what happens to that old UFC legacy or UF legacy, excuse me. And we'll go from there. Go Knowles, guys. We will
Go
see you
Noles.
all next time, baby.